Bonsoir. Welcome to the newcomers and welcome back for the others. I know I've not updated this one for quite a long time. It's just that I was so taken in Ranger Apprentice that I didn't have time for this one, but I try and deal with both of them at the same time from now on. So let's go for chapter 16 of The Broken Empire, The Prince of Thorns, still written by Mark Lawrence. Here we go. 4 years earlier. Thunder again. It held me for a moment. I felt it in my chest. Then the lightning spelling out the world in harsh new shapes. I saw vision in the afterimages. A baby shaken until the blood came from its eyes. Children dancing in fire. Another rumble rattled the boards, and the darkness returned. I sat in the confusion between sleep and the waking world, surrounded by the creak of wood, the shake and rattle of the wind. Lightning stabbed again, and I saw the interior of the carriage. Mother opposite, William beside her, curled upon the bench seat, his knees to his chest. The storm! I twisted and caught the window. The slats resisted me, spitting rain as the wind whistled outside. "Shh, York," Mother said. "Go back to sleep." I couldn't see her in the dark, but the carriage held her scent, roses and lemongrass. The storm. I knew I'd forgotten something. That much I remembered. Just rain and wind. Don't let it frighten you, York, love. Did it frighten me? I listen as the guts round their clothes across the door. "We have to stay in the carriage," she said. I let the roll and rock of the carriage take me, hunting for that memory. "Sleep, York." It was more of a comment than a recommendation. How does she know I'm not asleep? Lightning struck so close, I could hear the sizzle. The light crossed her face in 3 bars, making something feral of her eyes. "We have to stop the carriage. We have to get her. We have to..." "Go to sleep." Her voice carried an edge. I tried to stand and found myself waist down, as if I were wading in the thickest mud or molasses. "You're not my mother. Stay in the carriage," she said, her voice a whisper. The tang of cloves cut the darkness. A breath of myrrh, beneath it, the perfume of the grave. The stink of it smothered all sound, except the slow rasp of her breath. I handled the door handle with blind fingers. Instead of cold metal, I found corruption. The softness of flesh turned sour in death. A scream broke from me, but it couldn't pierce the silence. I saw her in the next flash of the storm, skin peeled from her bone, raw pits for eyes. Fear took my strength. I felt it running down my leg in a hot flood. "Come to mother!" Fingers like twigs closed around my arm and drew me forward in the blackness. No thought would form in the terror that held me. Words trembled on my lips, but I'd no mind to know what they would be. "You're not her," I said. One more flash, revealing her face an inch before mine. One more flash, and in it I saw my mother dying, bleeding in the rain of a wild night, and me hung on the briar, helpless, in a grip made of moors and thorns, held by fear. A cold rage rose in me. From the gut, I drove my forehead into the ruin of the monster's face and took the door handle with a surety that needed no sight. No! And I leaped into the storm. The thunder rolled loud enough to wake even the deepest buried. I jerked into a sitting position, confused by the stink of hay and the prickle of straw all around me. The barn. I remembered the barn. A single point of illumination broke the night. A lantern's glow. It hung from a beam close by the barn door. A figure, a man, a tall one, stood in the fringe of the light. The Nuban lay at his feet, cock in troubled sleep. I made to cry out, then beat my cheek hard enough to stop myself. The copper tang of the blood chaperoned away the remnant of my dream. The man held the biggest crossbow I'd ever seen. With one hand, he began to wind back the cable. He took his time. When you're hunting on behalf of a dream witch, I guess you're never in a rush. Unless one of your victims escapes whatever dreams have been sent to keep them sleeping. I reached for my knife and found nothing. I guessed it lost along whatever past my nightmare had led me through the hay. The lantern struck a gleam from something metal by my feet. A bailing hook. 3 more turns on that crank, and he'd be done. I took the hook. The storm hole covered my approach. I didn't sneak. I walked across slow enough to be sure of my footing, fast enough to give ill fortune no time to act against me. I'd thought to reach around and cut the batter's throat, but he was tall, too tall for a 10-year-old witch. He lifted the crossbow to sight down at the nubbin. Wait, then when waiting is called for. That's what Landist used to tell me. But never hesitate. I hooked the hunter between the legs and yanked up as hard as I could. Where the crash of thunder and the roar of the wind had failed, the hunter's scream succeeded. The nubbin woke up. And to his credit, there was no wondering where he was or what was happening. He surged to his feet and had a foot of steel through the man's chest in 2 heartbeats. We stood with the hunter, lying between us, each with our weapon bloated. The Nuban whipped his blade on the hunter's cloak. That's a big old crossbow. I tossed it across the floor and marveled at the weight of it. The Nuban lifted the bow. He ran his finger over the metal work inlaid of the wood. My people made this. He trades a symbol and the faces of fierce goats. And now I owe you another life. He hefted the crossbow and smiled, his teeth a white line in the lantern glow. One will be enough. I paused. It's Count Reynard that has to die. And the smile left him. Well, folks, that's the end of chapter 16. This one was quite short, but quite violent. I can't quite picture a 10 years old kid doing that. And I'm not a man, but even like that, I guess it does hurt quite a lot. Well, anyway, see you next time. Bye.